The prisoner who vanished during roll call inside a locked facility. Hit subscribe before the doors slam shut. Like the video if you're ready to step inside a place where mistakes don't just cost time, they erase people. And comment if you think you'd notice what everyone else missed. The siren didn't mean a riot. It meant something worse. At exactly 6:12 a.m., during first roll call, Holloway Correctional Facility froze. Guards stopped moving. Radios crackled, then went silent. On the clipboard in Unit C, one name was circled in red ink, Evan Mercer, inmate number 44721, and next to it, a single word, unaccounted. Holloway was built to prevent the impossible. 12-foot walls topped with razor wire. Motion sensors along every corridor. Doors that required dual authorization to open. Inmates didn't disappear here. They were counted, tracked, and logged into existence every hour of every day. Yet Mercer's cell was empty, his bunk made tight, his locker untouched. No signs of struggle. No alarms triggered. No footage flagged overnight. Captain Lena Ortiz arrived within minutes, boots echoing against concrete as she moved through Unit C. She'd spent 15 years in corrections and had learned to trust patterns. This wasn't an escape. Escapes left noise, cut fences, broken locks, frantic movement. This felt quieter. Surgical. Like someone had turned Mercer into a clerical error. Lock the facility, Ortiz ordered. No transfers. No work details moving until I say so. The control room pulled footage from the previous night. Cameras showed Mercer returning to his cell after dinner count, exchanging a brief nod with Officer Danvers, the floor guard. At 9:03 p.m., lights out. At 2:17 a.m., a routine perimeter sweep. Nothing unusual. At 5:45 a.m., officers began roll call. Mercer's door opened. The cell was empty. Ortiz replayed the footage twice, then a third time. "Where's his movement log?" she asked. A junior analyst slid a printout across the console. "Logged to kitchen duty at 5:30 a.m., Captain." Ortiz frowned. "Kitchen duty doesn't start until 6. The analyst hesitated. "That's what the system says." Ortiz felt the first prickle of unease. Systems didn't say things. People told systems what to say. By 7 a.m., rumors spread through the blocks. Inmates whispered. Guards tightened patrols. The warden demanded answers. Ortiz assembled a small team, records, IT, internal affairs, and told them to forget assumptions. "Start with the paper," she said. "Paper lies before people do." Mercer's file was thin. Convicted of financial fraud. Nonviolent. Quiet. Assigned clerical work in the admin wing 3 months earlier. Trusted. Reliable. The kind of inmate officers barely remembered by face. "Pull his work detail supervisor," Ortiz said. The supervisor, a tired man with ink-stained fingers, swore Mercer hadn't shown up that morning. "I had 3 from Unit C," he said. Mercer wasn't one of them. Yet the system insisted otherwise. The digital log showed Mercer clocked in. Time-stamped. Authorized. Someone had placed him into a location he never reached. Ortiz walked the admin wing herself. Desks hummed. Printers churned. Filing cabinets lined the walls like soldiers. Mercer's workstation sat clean and orderly, a pen aligned perfectly with a stack of forms. Too perfect. Ortiz opened the bottom drawer and found a ledger tucked beneath blank intake sheets. It wasn't contraband. It wasn't hidden well. It was waiting. Inside were names, dozens of them, paired with dates, work details, and annotations only a records clerk would understand. Next to Mercer's own name was a notation in the margin, written in a careful hand, invisible when needed. Ortiz felt her pulse quicken. Who else had access to his workstation? She asked. IT arrived with a grim update. "Captain, we've got a problem." Mercer's credentials were used after lights out. Multiple entries. Movement logs adjusted retroactively. "From where?" Ortiz asked. IT shook his head. "From inside the system." By midday, the facility was locked down and the state inspector notified. No trace of Mercer on the yard. No camera footage showing him leaving his cell. No evidence he'd ever gone to the kitchen. He hadn't escaped. He'd been relocated on paper, erased by process. Then a guard from Unit C approached Ortiz, pale. "Captain," he said quietly, "you should see this." In the records room, a cabinet had been forced open. Inside, a single folder lay on the table, Mercer's file, except it wasn't his. It was a duplicate. Same number. Same name. Different photograph. Ortiz stared at the image. The man in the photo looked nothing like Mercer. And on the inside cover, stamped in fresh ink, were the words that turned the case inside out. Transfer approved. Effective 5:31 a.m. By nightfall, Holloway Correctional Facility felt less like a prison and more like a crime scene that refused to explain itself. The lockdown dragged into its 12th hour. Inmates were restless. Guards were exhausted. And somewhere inside the system, Evan Mercer was still officially present, counted, logged, and reassigned, despite no one being able to put eyes on him. Captain Lena Ortiz stood in the records room, staring at the duplicate file. 2 photographs. Same inmate number. Same sentence length. Different faces. The kind of administrative impossibility that shouldn't exist unless someone with deep access wanted it to. "Who approved this transfer?" the warden demanded. Ortiz flipped the folder open again. "According to this, you did." The room went silent. The warden leaned forward, his jaw tightening. "That signature isn't mine." "But it matches the authorization key," Ortiz said. Time-stamped at 5:31 a.m., exactly 1 minute after Mercer was logged to kitchen duty. Internal Affairs arrived just before midnight. Their lead investigator, Marcus Hale, had the tired eyes of a man who'd seen systems abused before. "This isn't an escape," Hale said, scanning the logs. "It's a disappearance executed through compliance. Someone turned procedure into a weapon." They pulled every access record tied to Mercer's credentials. Over the past 9 months, his login had touched nearly every administrative subsystem, work details, transfers, medical appointments, even temporary housing assignments. Always subtle. Always within acceptable ranges. Nothing that triggered alerts. "He mapped the blind spots," Ortiz said. "Learned which changes never get questioned." Hale nodded. And he didn't do it alone. The first crack came from the transport unit. A supervisor reported an anomaly from 6 weeks earlier, a scheduled overnight transfer that never happened. The receiving facility logged an inmate arrival. Holloway logged a departure. The bus manifest matched. The head count reconciled. Only later did auditors notice that the inmate transferred never existed. A ghost transfer. Ortiz felt the case widen in her hands. "How many times?" she asked. Hale's answer landed hard. "At least 4. 4 inmates, nonviolent, low-profile, paper-perfect, had been quietly erased from one facility and conjured into another, or nowhere at all. Their files closed, their sentences marked as continuing somewhere else. Families kept writing letters that were returned unopened. Lawyers filed motions that went unanswered because the clients were, officially, accounted for. Someone had built a shadow corridor through the system. They traced Mercer's access to a terminal in the admin wing, a machine supposed to be air-gapped. IT swore it wasn't connected to the network. Until they pulled the panel and found a secondary cable routed behind the wall, spliced into a maintenance line installed years earlier and never documented. Mercer hadn't hacked the prison. He'd inherited its mistakes. At 2:14 a.m., a guard reported a disturbance in Unit B. Ortiz and Hale arrived to find Officer Danvers, the same guard who'd nodded to Mercer the night before, sitting on the floor, shaking. His locker was open. Inside, beneath spare gloves, was a prepaid phone. Danvers broke quickly. "I didn't know what it was," he said. "He asked me to move envelopes. Forms. Said it was clerical overflow. He knew things, about my overtime, my sick days. He said he could fix mistakes before they became problems." "Did he pay you?" Hale asked. Danvers swallowed. "No. He promised protection." Protection from what became clear an hour later, when Internal Affairs pulled Mercer's correspondence logs. Letters written in careful language. No threats. No demands. Just reminders, of debts, of favors, of errors that could surface at inconvenient times. Mercer didn't coerce. He leveraged. By dawn, Ortiz had a working theory. Mercer hadn't vanished into thin air. He'd transferred himself, cleanly, legally, into a space between facilities, a limbo created by overlapping jurisdictions and unquestioned data. A man who existed everywhere on paper and nowhere in flesh. Then a call came from a county jail 2 states away. "We have an inmate with your number," the voice said. "Arrived this morning. Paperwork checks out." Ortiz closed her eyes. "What name?" The pause. "Evan Mercer." "And the face?" Ortiz asked. Another pause, longer this time. "Captain," the voice said slowly, "it's not the man in your photo." Ortiz looked at Hale. "Stop the transfer," she said. "Lock him down." Too late. Minutes later, the county jail called back, panic bleeding through the line. "The cell is empty," the voice said. "Doors were never opened. Cameras show no movement." Ortiz stared at the wall, the weight of it settling in. Mercer hadn't just escaped Holloway. He'd perfected a method. And if he could move himself like a line item, then anyone tied to his operation, guards, clerks, even investigators, could disappear just as quietly. Hale broke the silence. "Captain," he said, "we're not chasing a fugitive." "What are we chasing?" Ortiz asked. Hale met her eyes. "A man who figured out how to leave prison without ever walking out." The mistake everyone made was assuming Evan Mercer wanted freedom. Captain Lena Ortiz realized it as dawn bled through the narrow windows of Holloway's control room. The facility was still locked down, but Mercer's name continued to appear, on screens, on logs, on transfer queues, as if he were a function the system refused to shut off. He wasn't hiding from the prison anymore. He was inside its bloodstream. Internal Affairs traced the pattern backward. Mercer's first clerical assignment hadn't been a privilege, it was a test. He learned which fields were audited and which were trusted, which supervisors skimmed reports and which initials opened doors without follow-up. Over 9 months, he didn't break rules. He optimized them. He created redundancy, Marcus Hale said, pointing to overlapping records. If one file raises a question, another confirms it. The system resolves the conflict by believing both. Ortiz's phone buzzed. A private number. She answered. "You're close," a calm voice said. "But you're still looking for a person." Ortiz froze. Hale's eyes widened. "Who is this?" she demanded. "A reminder," the voice replied. "Inmates are counted. Data isn't." The line went dead. They locked every terminal tied to Mercer's credentials, but the changes kept propagating, queued days earlier, set to execute automatically. Transfers approved. Counts reconciled. The machine kept believing the lie because the lie had been formatted correctly. Then came the twist that broke the case open. A forensic accountant flagged an external pattern. Mercer's inmate account had never been drained. The fraud wasn't money. It was identity. Each ghost transfer created a clean slate, new intake numbers, new jurisdictions, new administrative owners. Men with inconvenient histories were being laundered through bureaucracy, emerging elsewhere as someone the system had already blessed. Ortiz saw it clearly now. Mercer hadn't escaped. He'd built exits, not for himself alone, but for others willing to pay in favors, secrets, and silence. They followed the trail to a private contractor handling interfacility data synchronization. A former corrections consultant, now a vendor, had designed the legacy systems years earlier. His name appeared in Mercer's correspondence, tucked into innocuous letters discussing formatting inconsistencies. When federal agents brought the consultant in, he didn't resist. "I told them it was fragile," he said. "That trust-based reconciliation would fail if someone learned the rules." No one listened. "Did Mercer pay you?" Ortiz asked. The man shook his head. "He didn't need to. He just showed me where the cracks were." Said the prison already believed in ghosts. With emergency authority, Ortiz ordered a full freeze on automated transfers nationwide. The count had to become physical again. Eyes on faces, hands on doors. The process was slow. Messy. Human. They found 2 of the 4 missing inmates in other facilities, living under names the system had accepted without question. The 3rd surfaced in a county jail, arrested for a minor offense, his old sentence quietly reattached like a shadow catching up. The 4th was never found. As for Mercer, the truth landed weeks later in a sealed report. On the morning of his disappearance, he hadn't walked out. He'd been escorted, legally, by transport officers responding to a valid order generated by the system. The destination field read, administrative hold, pending review. A location that didn't exist. By the time anyone noticed, Mercer had already been reclassified, reassigned, and released into another jurisdiction under a name the system recognized as complete. No fences cut. No doors forced. Just a count that said he was somewhere else. Holloway rewrote its protocols. States updated their software. Audits became relentless. The prison world promised it had learned. Then, 3 months later, Ortiz received a file from a small facility overseas. An intake anomaly. A familiar pattern. Attached was a note, printed neatly at the bottom of a reconciled report. You fixed the doors. Not the math. Ortiz closed the file and stared at the wall, understanding settling in like a weight. They'd stopped Mercer. They hadn't stopped what he taught the system to do. Somewhere, right now, a name was being counted. A cell was being marked occupied. And a man was already gone. If this story pulled you in, the next one goes even deeper. Hit subscribe, because some cases don't end when the doors close.